They struck first, with laughter. On the border of Orion's Veil, humanity had nurtured a colony, Verdantia, a jewel of green valleys, seas that shimmered like crystal, and spires of white stone reaching toward stars. It was not a fortress, not a fleet base, not even armed beyond a token planetary guard. It was a place of poets and farmers, children running beneath twin suns, and scholars charting constellations humanity had only just begun to name. The Shirkai descended without warning. Their ships carved through the atmosphere, fire raining from their bellies. Cities vanished beneath pulses of white plasma. Orbital habitats ruptured, scattering lives into the void. Fields that once carried wheat and songbirds were drowned in ash. The defenders, few and hopelessly outmatched, were crushed in hours. The Shirkai commander, Admiral Shorak, ordered the survivors herded into a plaza of broken marble. He projected his image across the human comnet, forcing Verdantia's final breath to be seen by Earth. He raised one of the children by the throat, her small feet kicking in the dust, and sneered, "Humans, this is your fate. You breed, you spread, but you cannot fight. You are tame. You are weak. Rage if you wish. It changes nothing." The little girl's scream was silenced with a single flick of his talons. Her blood stained the plaza stones as the Shirkai soldiers jeered. Verdantia burned. Humanity wept. The galaxy watched. And in their arrogance, the aliens mocked our rage, and that was their first and final mistake. The halls of the Galactic Concord echoed with Shirkai laughter. Representatives of a dozen species sat silent as the insectile warlords boasted of humanity's humiliation. "They are soft," hissed Shorak before the gathered powers. "They build gardens where they should raise armies. They send envoys when they should wield weapons. Their rage is nothing, an ember that dies in the wind." The chamber shook with his warriors' rasping amusement. The Andari, pale and frail starfarers, dared to whisper, "You should not provoke them. Humanity is unpredictable." Shorak spat acid on the polished floor. "Unpredictable? They are prey. Their wrath is myth, nothing more. They weep for their dead. They do not avenge them." He raised his forearms in mock triumph. "The humans can do nothing. Their fire is ash, their steel is rust, their courage, fiction. The galaxy has nothing to fear from Earth." And so the laughter spread, carried on conquered channels, echoing across the spiral arms. Humanity was mocked in the marketplaces of alien cores, pitied in backroom councils, dismissed as children who had strayed too far from their cradle. The Shirkai fed on that arrogance. They toasted the conquest of Verdantia with blood wine, and promised more human worlds would fall. Their fleets moved toward the next colony, confident Earth would sit silent, cradling its grief. They were wrong. For a time, Earth was silent. Too silent. The comms from Sol carried no reply to the jeers broadcast by Shorak. No denouncements, no threats, no pleas for conquered intervention. The core world speculated that perhaps humanity was broken, that perhaps the Shirkai had cut too deep, and that Earth's will to fight had been extinguished before it could ever be forged. But beneath that silence, Earth stirred. In the dark shipyards of Luna, ancient forges roared awake. The Martian foundries bled sparks into the thin atmosphere. In orbit above Titan, kilometers-long hulls were sealed, weapons bays yawning open like the maws of gods. Across every colony, whispers traveled through the encrypted black net, an old line of defense, never spoken of in peace, a relic humanity had kept hidden for the day when patience broke. The whispers carried a single word: retribution. Fleets that had not stirred in centuries aligned their bows to the stars. Dreadnoughts, each one a cathedral of fire and steel, rose from their cradles. The old banners were unfurled again, black cloth, stitched with silver stars, marked with words the galaxy had forgotten. Terra Invicta. When the fleets finally moved, there was no warning, no council vote, no declaration of intent, only silence breaking into thunder. Alien outposts reported shadows blotting out suns as human armadas dropped from warp. Comms were flooded with a voice, synthesized and cold, echoing on every frequency. "You mocked our rage. Now learn its weight." And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy trembled, not from war among its ancient powers, but from Earth's vengeance unleashed. The Shirkai fleets met them first at Avaric's Gate, a choke point of shattered moons and asteroid belts. Shorak himself commanded, his dreadnought bristling with plasma cannons. His warriors roared in anticipation, drunk on victories past. They expected prey again. Fragile ships, fragile wills. But when the humans emerged from the warp, the stars themselves seemed to vanish. Hundreds of dreadnoughts, black as night, each larger than anything the Zhirkai had fielded. Carriers that launched wings of fighters like storms of steel hornets. Cruisers armored in ablative plating that turned aside plasma as though it were rain. Shorak hesitated, just for a moment. Then he laughed. More prey, he told his captains. Let them come. And so they did. The first volley tore through the Zhirkai lines like the hand of a god. Planet-buster warheads, banned by conquered law for centuries, detonated in the void. Entire battle groups vanished in silent blossoms of annihilation. Human dreadnoughts advanced without pause, their broadsides vomiting lances of ion fire that split Zhirkai cruisers in half. Human soldiers, Marines bred for void war, boarded surviving vessels. In black armor that reflected nothing, they swept corridors like shadows made flesh. Their rifles spat bursts that turned chitinous warriors into ash. Their voices, carried through comms, spoke a single phrase again and again, like a litany of judgment. For Verdantia. Hours later, the battle was done. The Zhirkai armada was gone. Shredded, burned, reduced to drifting corpses and slag. Admiral Shorak's flagship was breached at its heart. Human Marines dragged him to his own broadcast chamber, forcing him to his knees. The cameras lit, and Shorak, who had once mocked humanity's weakness, now trembled in silence before the galaxy. The Marine commander leaned close, helmet visor reflecting the alien's terrified eyes. His words carried across every Concord frequency. You thought us weak. You thought our rage was a jest. You were wrong. The screen turned white with plasma fire. Admiral Shorak was no more. But humanity did not stop. Verdantia had burned, and for every life stolen, humanity demanded 1,000-fold debt. World by world they advanced. Zhirkai colonies that had stood for millennia fell in weeks. Human fleets shattered orbital defenses, then rained fire until skies glowed red. Cities were leveled not with precision strikes, but with waves of kinetic bombardments that tore the crust itself. On the ground, armored legions advanced with the inevitability of glaciers. Civilians fled into the wilderness, but humanity was merciless. The Zhirkai had spared no children on Verdantia. Earth spared none of theirs. The galaxy watched in horror as recordings leaked. Human soldiers advancing through burning streets, their banners rising over piles of alien corpses, fleets hanging in orbit, their cannons silent only because no targets remained alive below. The laughter that once mocked Earth had vanished. Now there was only silence, broken by whispers. Do not provoke them. Do not draw Earth's eye. Do not mock their rage. Even the conquered, which had long pretended neutrality, convened in desperation. Pleas were sent to Sol, begging for restraint, but Earth replied with only 2 words, carried across every channel. Colder than any blade, never again. At last, the Zhirkai homeworld stood alone, its fleets shattered, its colonies burned. The skies darkened as the Terran armada arrived. Tens of thousands of ships filled orbit, their black hulls reflecting firelight. On the surface below, billions trembled, knowing judgment had come. The human commander addressed the planet on open broadcast. His face was calm, his voice without hate, only the weight of absolute finality. You mocked our rage. You slaughtered our children. You thought Earth would break. He paused. Now you will learn the truth. The fleet fired. Kinetic strikes rained like a storm of gods. Oceans boiled. Continents split. Skies turned to fire. The Zhirkai homeworld, once a jewel of alien dominion, cracked apart. From orbit, survivors screamed into comms. Begging for mercy, none came. Within hours, the Zhirkai were ash. An empire erased, its name consigned to dust. And then, silence. Humanity did not spread further, did not conquer new territory, did not demand tribute. They simply returned to their worlds, their fleets drifting back into shadow. The galaxy was left trembling, stunned by the scale of vengeance they had witnessed. An empire mocked humanity, and was annihilated so utterly that only ruins remained to mark its existence. In the years that followed, survivors whispered warnings to their children. Alien leaders hushed their people when they laughed at Earth. Merchants silenced mockery in marketplaces. Councils spoke carefully when humanity was named, because all now knew. Humanity's patience was vast, their civility deep, their silence long. But when that silence broke, when their rage was stirred, when their vengeance was unleashed, it was infinite. And so the galaxy learned the lesson carved into ash and fire. The aliens mocked our rage, and died.